We're moving in for the month in Old Town East in this neighborhood here along McAllister, just off of Main Street, the old National Road. Bob Kendrick here live in a neighborhood that really has seen its share of crime and violence. We're reporting from this area a lot. We want to come in and find out what some of the problems are. Our Steve Levine is going to be living in this house that's been renovated now for a month, as I told you, and Steve has really spent the last day unpacking and joins us now from live inside with what we can expect over the next 30 days. Steve?
Bobby, if you think it looks really nice outside, wait till you see inside. Check out the degs. When's the last time you saw a nice wooden door like this in this house? Of course, we do have plenty of boxes. We're still unpacking. Important to the Fighting Back house, coffee mugs. Very important, especially in the morning. Well, this is where we will be doing a lot of our talking with neighbors and with community leaders here, finding out what they're doing to take back their streets. You know, this place has all the comforts of home. We'll be here for 30 days, but we also discovered that this house also has a bit of a criminal past.
The cabinets were old and not working well.
Jonathan Beard shows us just some of the improvements he's made to this empty Old Town East home.
People had broken into it, so there were holes in the walls between the units.
And this place we're calling home for the next 30 days is no stranger to crime. For years, it was a known drug house.
We actually witnessed where they would just come through, walk in, you know, the door would crack open from the inside and the exchange would be made. The money would go in, the dope would come out, the door would close, and back they went and went on about their business.
Beard's nonprofit group Columbus Compact took over the 3-bedroom home after it was raided by police a few years ago, boarded up and declared a public nuisance by the city.
Quite a bit of disarray.
Tell us about that. What was it like?
Well, there was some stuff all over, personal items all over the place.
You can get anything you want there. So it's just very blatant. You could watch it happen out here all the time.
It was the community fighting back that led to the police raids, arrests, and the dried-up drug sales. A battle neighbors continue to fight with groups like Columbus Compact.
So we've got to get hold of some of these properties, and we've got to disrupt the activity and make it uncomfortable for people to be here and do things they shouldn't be doing.
This can happen in Upper Arlington. This can happen anywhere.
Now, it's not all going to be fun out here. We are going to be doing a lot of work, and this is pretty much ground zero for that. This is where we will be editing our stories that we'll be telling you about all the neighbors in the community. You see, this was us yesterday putting up the cameras around the house, and we also had some furniture that was delivered by Court Furniture. They gave us a great place to live for the next 30 days. You can see all that fun stuff that they're bringing in here. But coming up later on in the broadcast, I'll tell you how you'll be able to take part in this 24/7. See what's going on inside the Fighting Back house.
We're staying just a few blocks from here. We didn't hear any gunshots or police sirens last night in connection with this shooting at this club. But when we woke up, it was a little unnerving to learn that there was gunfire just a few steps from where we were sleeping. And that's why neighbors tell us they're working hard to take back their streets. Early morning gunfire rings out inside an after-hours club following a fight. One man is dead, 2 others are wounded.
Good job, Jack.
Just 12 hours earlier, neighbors are just a few blocks away, celebrating at our ABC6 Fighting Back backyard barbecue at South Champion and East Main Street.
Things be happening every day. So that's why I mentioned, you know, as far as part of life, you never know.
People need to be more active in the community for them to really get a good hands-on. If you're not helping out, you need to don't criticize them.
The bloodshed happened just a few doors down from the New Zion Baptist Church, where reclaiming this neighborhood is a top mission for this congregation.
We would love to expand our church. This is nice land to do it, and then we can be even a bigger impact in this community.
An impact that would be felt all across this neighborhood, working to fight back. In Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC6 News.
Steve is live in a part of the neighborhood that was hit hard by violence last summer. Steve?
Yolanda, you may remember last summer for a couple of weeks, this intersection was a virtual war zone. In fact, somebody was shot and killed right in the middle of the street. Violent times, not only for neighbors, but for police who patrol around here on 2 wheels. Behind their handlebars, Columbus Bike Patrol officers Daryl Kowalski and Travis Turner make the rounds in Old Town East.
Looking for groups of people congregating maybe where they shouldn't be. You know, there's certain areas where there is more, it's known there's more drug activity there, just keeping an eye on.
We used to have just a lot of problems out on Main Street, and
with drug dealing and people drinking and the prostitution, to where it is now. It's a 180-degree turnaround.
While the neighborhood is safer now, it was a different story just last summer when gunfire took over the streets.
It's happening right out in the middle of the night, right on a busy street, where, you know, anybody who was innocent victim or someone could have got shot and killed.
A 2-week stretch of violence these officers remember like yesterday.
You never knew what was going to happen that day, and that's what we're trying to get rid of. Because people, you know, on this side of town was scared to come out that side of town.
Officers say neighbors and police working together played a big role in cleaning up the streets.
They'll let us know, and that's how we can give it more time and then relay it to the other guys.
And the guys on this precinct, I mean, anything that we give them, these guys are awesome out here.
And while these patrol officers are seeing tremendous strides in the streets, they tell us they'll continue to pedal even harder to keep the momentum going.
It was pretty violent, and we can't let that happen again. So that's something that we have to keep working at doing.
And these officers patrol the streets when it's raining, when it's snowing, except when it's really snowing and there's huge blizzard out here. That's when they actually have to get into their cruisers and patrol around here. Coming up at 6, I'll tell you the difference between patrolling in a cruiser and patrolling on 2 wheels. Live in Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
Caught on camera right from our Fighting Back house front porch in Old Town East. Police bust 2 potential copper thieves.
2 suspects pushing grocery carts with possible stolen items from a house, copper piping and some other metals.
Police tell us a taser had to be used after one suspect got out of hand while being cuffed.
The gentleman turned around on the officer, smacked his hands away, and took a fighting stance, and the officer deployed a division-issued taser for one 5-second cycle.
Police say the suspect was checked out after being tased and was okay. He was then hauled away on unrelated warrants. The stolen loot probably lifted from this abandoned house. It's just a block from where police caught the suspects. This cast iron bathtub leg found on the front steps is believed to have been left behind by the thieves. A claw-footed bathtub was one of the stolen items police found. Inside the vacant home's bathroom, there's a space where a tub once stood. You can also see ripped out holes from where copper piping was stolen. We also found tools used to steal copper, also left behind. A case officers were able to crack thanks to an anonymous tip phoned into police.
The citizens outnumber us far more, and they know what's out of place. They live here 24 hours a day, so that's what we need. We just need the constant interaction with the citizens.
Reporter Steve Levine joins us live from one part of the neighborhood that's gotten a complete makeover. Steve?
Yolanda, years ago, the corner of 18th and Oak Street, it was littered with prostitution, out-of-town drug dealers, and a lot of crime. Well, check it out now. You've got thriving restaurants and bakeries. There's even a tavern that's getting ready to open. It is a huge changeover from years ago, thanks in part to one crime-fighting artist.
You sort of glue it right on there.
For nearly 30 years, Ralph Williams has created unique art from inside his studio in Old Town East. He picked the spot specifically for the neighborhood and storefront space.
It's an investment, emotional investment, to go into a place like this.
But back then, Ralph wasn't the only one who liked the location.
There was a crack house across the street, across the alley, down the street, all the way down the street.
So Ralph fought back. An original Block Watch member in Old Town East, he started patrolling the streets, looking and reporting suspicious activity. Some of the violence he witnessed right from his front door.
I saw a lady stabbed right over there under that tree. She died. It was over a crack debt. She died. That was like a really bad night.
Ralph also works hard to make the street look nice. When he gave the front of his studio a facelift, he put in this birdhouse, which does double duty as a peephole so he can secretly look for crime.
This hole right here I could see clear to the corner, right there. You can't see, the gate was there, but the sculpture's here. And this hole here I could see all the way down the alley. All the way down the alley.
But Ralph tells us these days he rarely needs the peepholes.
Everything's changed.
Change, Ralph says, for the better. But even though the drug dealers and prostitutes no longer call this neighborhood home, Ralph is still there pounding the pavement to keep his street safe.
I like to go out and do it. because I'm not afraid to go out and do it.
In Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
ABC 6 is fighting back by having a crew live just a block from where that murder occurred last year. Our Steve Levine joins us now live. He found out there were plenty of witnesses to this crime. Steve.
Yolanda, it is 8 months ago today that Dominique Johnson walked across the street and he was gunned down. And despite people walking up and down the sidewalk and cameras catching the crime on tape, police still have few clues to crack this case.
Justice for Dominique!
Family and friends of murder victim Dominique Johnson rally for justice just steps from where the 22-year-old was shot to death in September on East Main Street.
He may have not been a perfect child, but nobody deserves to die like that.
The slaying caught on camera, the killer still on the loose. Police say an older model white Chevy Impala sped away after the shooting.
There was 15 people counted on the cameras right here that were out here when my son was murdered, and not one person has came forward.
This day right here was the last day I seen my son.
Santina McNeil is also here. Her son, 22-year-old Antoine Dotson, was murdered at an East Columbus gas station 6 weeks before Dominique. His case also unsolved. The two murder victims, best friends.
This is tragic for us, for our family, for his friends. It's tragic for all of us.
And just 2 weeks ago, another tragedy for Dominique's family. His first cousin, Victor Burris, was strangled. His death now being investigated by police.
We need to stop this youth on youth crime that's going around. It's not just necessarily black on black, it's our youth killing youth.
And that's the reason why families and friends gathered here on the corner with signs like this calling for an end to youth violence. And also a reason people are out here, they want to make sure if anybody has any information, family and friends are urging them to call police to help them solve these cases. Live in Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
All month long, reporter Steve Levine and photographer Jay Novonty are living in what was a drug house at one time, now renovated, to learn how neighbors are taking back their streets against violence. Steve is live from 18th and East Main tonight. An eyesore, Steve, that the neighbors claim really is an open invitation for crime.
Bob, condos and stores are planned here for this area, but check it out now. It's nothing but weeds and garbage. Buster Douglas, boxing champ and former boxing champ, had planned to put some development here, but as you can see, nothing's going on now. So neighbors asked us to find out what happened to the promised development.
This field of dreams on East Main Street, now a virtual wasteland for trash and crime.
Just a big field with a lot of beer bottles and everything. People be littering in it. You know, it don't make no sense.
Neighbors had high hopes for this property after former heavyweight boxing champ James Buster Douglas announced years ago plans to build condos and stores just blocks from where he took his first jabs.
A lot of people was looking up to him, you know. He was our little hero.
But we've learned Douglas's plans to bring a commercial development here are over. A spokesman for Douglas tells us the economy TKO'd the development, and now Buster and a majority partner have put the lot up for sale.
Empty beer and pizza boxes now litter this corner, which could be a prime spot for development.
It's just an old, empty, rundown skating rink until when Buster bought it and they knocked it down, and then it's just been empty ever since.
Joby Williams, who runs All for His Glory Ministry across the street, wants to rejuvenate the corner. He shows us this hand-drawn layout for a center that would include a shelter, daycare, and sanctuary. And despite having no cash or investors yet to purchase the property.
I believe I serve a God of the impossible, and I believe if this is what God has for us to do, it will happen.
I talked with a commercial realtor who's selling the land. He said he's had some interest, but no significant offers. Now, coming up tonight at 6, it is Get Out of the Neighborhood near the Fighting Back House. The neighborhoods and the kids, we're all heading out. We'll tell you where we're going tonight at 6. Live in Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News. Lindsay Miller is working hard with fellow Block Watch members to spruce up her Franklin Park neighborhood.
I just think it's important for people to know that we're a strong community where people care about where they live.
But neighbors can't clean up everywhere.
It's an attack on our neighborhood.
James Flannery is talking about the historic trolley barn, now splattered with spray-painted graffiti left behind by vandals.
It's heartbreaking. I don't know what else to say. It's a historic landmark and has been attacked.
Neighbors name their newly created Block Watch after the trolley barn, but are unable to scrub the buildings clean because it's private property.
This spray-painted mess left by vandals started popping up here last fall. But it was a different picture a century ago, when trolley cars filled the neighborhood brick streets.
6 buildings house the city's trolley system starting in the late 1880s, making it the crown jewel of the neighborhood. But today that centerpiece now tarnished.
This is where you want to go.
Community members now working hard to bring back the glory days, hoping to buy and rehab the trolley barn to bring in markets, shops, and art studios. Neighbors just hope work begins before the aging and crime-targeted buildings become too run down to save.
A diamond in the rough. It needs to be restored.
We did try to reach the owner of the trolley barn property, but we couldn't get in contact with her. Now tonight at 6 o'clock, we'll find out ways and show you how neighbors are actually making a difference in the Franklin Park neighborhood. Live in East Columbus, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
One eyesore is actually right next door to the former drug house where ABC 6 reporter Steve Levine and photographer Jay Novonty have been living and working since the start of the month. Steve here now to tell us who's responsible for that next door home down the street there, Steve.
Bob, neighbors say it's really difficult to clean up the neighborhood when you have a rundown home like this one. Loose floorboards, there's even a hole in the porch. That's why neighbors asked us to find out who's the property owner and why this place is in still major disrepair.
It's an eyesore next to our Fighting Back house. Neighbors desperately want cleaned up.
It was run down, you know, and had the weeds all over the place.
The 2-story vacant home is loaded with city code violations and has become a haven for squatters and animals.
You know, it's a rat trap.
This household hazard isn't owned by a deadbeat landlord. It belongs to the city's land bank.
We kind of think of ourselves as a property owner of last resort. So we try to get the properties that people have abandoned, that banks don't want.
The land bank got a hold of this house back in 2010. A property we showed the land bank administrator is still in desperate need of repair.
The boards are coming up, and it's kind of a hazard for kids or anybody gets in the porch. Anything you can do to
we can get someone out here to fix that.
But not all the land bank houses are in such poor shape and run down as the one right next door to our Fighting Back house. Many of the places are like this rehabbed home. It needs a little bit of tender loving care, but perfect for a family to move in and make a difference in the neighborhood.
Since the early 90s, the land banks helped turn around hundreds of city properties. And as promised, less than an hour after this inspection, crews were cutting down weeds and fixing open hazards next door to the Fighting Back house.
Appreciate y'all bringing them out here, you know, so you know, it looks more better.
Land Bank is now deciding if it's going to keep this home or it'll demolish it. Officials say they don't like demolishing homes in this neighborhood because it's such a historic place. Now, coming up at 6, we'll tell you what happens if they do have to demolish a house and how neighbors really reap the benefits. Live in Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News. Neighborhood carryouts, for years a crime hotspot for shootings and drugs in Old Town East.
They tolerated a lot of drug dealing and other unsavory activities.
We had so much loitering around the carryouts that sold alcohol. I don't know why, but the carryouts seemed to be a magnet for negative behavior.
It was the liquor option.
So Block Watch neighbors fought back. They petitioned the community and got an issue on the ballot to stop liquor sales around the neighborhood, a move voters passed overwhelmingly. And shortly after alcohol sales were banned in January, a lot of crime dried up when several carryouts shut their doors.
Tremendous difference. We do not have the loitering. It disappeared immediately.
The liquor ban didn't happen overnight. Neighbors started pushing for it during the late 90s. It failed once, twice, not 3 times. It was the 4th try when voters tossed out the alcohol for good.
A lot of persistence, enthusiasm, some stubbornness to get things done, and I feel that we are getting things done gradually here.
If you want to change your neighborhood, you go out and do it yourself. You can get it done and make a tremendous difference.
Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
ABC 6 reporter Steve Levine joins us from Old Town East on the porch of our Fighting Back house.
Greetings from the Fighting Back house here in Old Town East, where we once again are serving up justice right from our own front porch. Joining right now is Sergeant Bill Duffer with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office to fill us in on the newest member of the Wheel of Justice.
Okay, tonight we had Daniel Gaddick, who is accused of running over someone during an argument. He joins Marlon Williams, charged with improperly firing a gun.
Now let's spin the wheel to see whose luck could soon run out.
All right. Okay, Steve, tonight the hunt is on for Tyrone Draper. If you know where authorities can find this guy, call Crime Stoppers at 614-461-TIPS.
With your help, the Wheel of Justice will win out. With Sergeant Bill Duffer, I'm Steve Levine at the Fighting Back House in Old Town East, ABC 6 News.
New city safety cameras will soon be zooming in on crime inside Old Town East. There are 4 locations in the eyes in the sky. They are just a short walk from where we've moved in for the month of May. ABC 6 reporter Steve Levine is here to tell us when those cameras will begin rolling. Steve?
Yolanda, we're right here at the corner of South Champion and East Main Street. One of those city safety cameras will be going right here. It is one of 4 cameras that will be installed in East Columbus sometime this summer. And folks here in Old Town East tell me that being seen on all sides is something they are pretty used to. Watch as a suspect wanted for a robbery and shooting refuses to pull over when asked by police. It's all caught by a city safety camera on Livingston Avenue. Video that helped police make 2 arrests. This corner at Old Town East, among 4 places in East Columbus where those public safety cameras will soon be focusing in on crime. Good news for East Main Street merchant Denise Benning.
It will help us to stop the crime and the prostitution and the other violence that's happening down here.
Old Town East neighbors are no strangers to being caught on camera. For years, community eyes in the skies have been catching illegal activity in the neighborhood.
Guys tearing out the phone booth.
Nonprofit group Columbus Compact began recording illegal activity along Main Street 4 years ago. Crimes caught on camera have led to police arrests and prosecution.
Glad to see them coming in. I think it adds a whole new capability and a whole new connection with law enforcement.
I think it's a great idea. This neighborhood is going down so much.
And of course, those community cameras will stay online when the new city safety cameras join the neighborhood. Now, if you want to take part as we move in and fight back, see what's going on inside and outside the Fighting Back House, head to ABC 6 on your side. We have 4 webcams going 24/7, so you can take part in all the action. Live in Old Town East, I'm Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
A lot of drug activity, a lot of vandalism. You know, it's not safe to really sit outside sometimes because of gunfire.
But Vicki Rogers tells me the violence in Old Town East years ago was not enough to keep her from moving into the home her grandparents bought more than 50 years ago, a place that has fond childhood memories.
The backyard, sitting out, cooking out. We used to always be out in the backyard.
And thanks to neighbors fighting back over the past few years, the majority of crime has dried up.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
How's that make you feel?
Pretty good. Sometimes I step outside and I'm like, where's everybody at? It seems like a ghost town.
On her front porch, Vicki shows us this scrapbook full of family memories and photos. Vicki's grandparents, both active in the neighborhood. Grandma Agnes, involved in the Central Community House. Her grandpa, William Plunk Ford, played for the Chicago Bulls and was an original Harlem Globetrotter. So what were the stories you heard about him being a Globetrotter?
Well, there was, my mother used to tell me stories. You know, they didn't get paid very much. They didn't get paid practically hardly little anything.
Well, Vicki says she's not seeing as much crime from her porch as she used to. She's still chaining her furniture to the porch.
It's been nailed for quite a bit of years, though.
You don't think you have to do it anymore?
I'm not so sure about that. You know, I'm not so sure about that.
Our time in the Fighting Back House is just about over. Steve Levine and photographer Jay Novonty have seen a lot during their month living in the Old Town East neighborhood. Steve joins us once more from the house as neighbors look to forge a stronger neighborhood into the future. Steve.
Yolanda, can you believe that it's been 30 days? It's time to pack up and move out. You know, as we're moving out of the neighborhood now, neighbors here are already looking forward, coming up with ways that they can keep their streets safe and shut the door on crime.
Thank you, sweetie.
When Eugenia Dade opened the doors to her soul food restaurant Smothered Gravy nearly 2 years ago, drug dealing and gunfire had taken over the streets.
When I came here, they were swerving in alleys on the grass.
Now that crime has pretty much left her street corner, Eugenia hopes more shops move in.
In order for anything to improve, you have to have business.
I probably have been broken into about 3 or 4 times.
But firefighter Victor Moody says that's not been a major concern since he returned to the neighborhood. Today, Victor is able to wash his car without worry. He just wants more neighbors.
I'd still like to see them renovate more houses in the area. I think there's still a lot of empty houses that need to be refurbished and new houses built.
Eugenia is cooking in the same neighborhood as her family did years ago. She is the third generation to open a restaurant in Old Town East.
This is one of my dreams since I was a child, to have a restaurant, and I chose this area.
I think the crime is steadily decreased, and the area is basically coming back. Like I say, there's been lots of changes in the last 5 years, and then the next 5 is probably going to be even greater changes.
Well, it's time to say goodbye to some of the neighbors. Joe's lived next door to us for the past month. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you letting us be here. Had a lot of great experiences, a lot of fun times. We met a lot of good people here. Great time. We'll be back, of course. And if anybody wants to see more of our great adventures here in Old Town East, Jay has put together a fabulous retrospective at abc6onyourside.com. Check it out in Moving In and Fighting Back. Now we're moving out, but still fighting back. Live in Old Town East, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.